All right. Good evening and thank you for watching. My name is Hank Stephenson. I'll be the moderator for this evening's forum for the candidates for the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board. CARE for TUSD is hosting this event. They are a diverse, nonpartisan group whose purpose is to educate and advocate for TUSD. They work collaboratively with all board members and the district and the community to provide accountability for students' learning. They are not endorsing any candidates and did not participate in drafting tonight's question. The group submitted its own survey for the candidates, which you can read on its website, care4tusd.org. That's care, the number 4, TUSD.org. The Tucson Unified School District has 3 open seats on its governing board this November and 7 candidates vying for the positions. Voters are allowed to choose 3 candidates on their ballots. Candidates, you will have a minute and a half for your opening statements. We'll then start the question and answer section where you will have a minute each to respond to questions about how you would govern. We'll also do a lightning round where I ask candidates to keep their responses quick, no more than 30 seconds. Then we'll move on to closing statements. You'll have each a minute to make your final pitch to voters. Candidates, we are sticking to a schedule tonight, so I'll give a little hand signal letting you know when it's time to wrap up your response. If you continue talking, I will interrupt. Okay, our candidates tonight are Ravi Grivois-Shah, Chrstina Mennella, Nicolas Pierson, Adam Ragan, Sadie Shaw, Natalie Luna Rose, and Cindy Winston. And we'll go in alphabetical order with kind of rotating first candidates. So since we're holding this debate virtually, I think it's appropriate to start with a few COVID questions. Pima County has hit the metrics set by the state to reopen schools for in-person hybrid learning. TUSD has not reopened for hybrid in-person learning. First question is, if the vote were held today, how would you vote on returning to hybrid in-person learning and why? And Mr. Grivois-Shah, start us off.
Well, thank you, Hank, and thank you, Care for TUSD, for hosting this forum tonight. That's the biggest question for parents. I'm a parent, TUSD parent, with a 3rd grader who's doing virtual learning in TUSD. And I'm also a family physician in our community. And this is really challenging because as a parent of a really socially active 8-year-old girl who needs to be with her peers and with her adults in her life, we want her back in school. As a family physician in our community who's been in the front lines of our community's COVID response, I've seen the immense impact COVID has had on our community. I understand that some districts have opened up and many of us have followed along, especially Tuesday nights with the last TUSD board meeting that vetted this. I think that we're going about this in probably not the best way. I think we need to take it out of the political hands and make it into a public health issue. And instead of trying to find arbitrary dates to open our schools, really looking at the metrics and coming up with what is our TUSD plan, green, red, and yellow, for when we can go live with everyone being in person, a yellow zone where we can have some hybrid education, and a red zone where it's not safe to go back to school.
Mr. Shaw, yes or no, would you vote to open schools for in-person learning today?
I don't think we're ready today to open up our schools. I don't think it's safe. If you talk to any physician in Tucson who went through the spike we had this summer, everyone is planning for a spike next month. We're all ready for another spike, and that's what we think is going to happen.
Thank you. Miss Mennella, you're up next. You're muted.
About that. Based on what Pima County says and what the state says, I would adhere to those recommendations, but I would, if everything's safe to go, I would vote today for a hybrid model for parents and teachers and students who want to go back. I believe everyone has their feelings about it, and so everyone should have a say on what they want to do. So, but I voted for hybrid, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Pierson?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, right now, there's quite a bit of fear among a lot of the teachers with comorbidities, so that has to be respected. And but there's still teachers that would be okay in the classroom, so I would be in favor of a hybrid model. The parents could choose whether they want to send their students in to the classroom as well as the teachers. I think we need to work within the system and come up with the best ways, because certainly there's a lot of damage that's being done by not being in session.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Ragan, I believe you're next.
Well, thank you, Hank, and thank you to TUSD Cares for hosting this forum. I'm excited to be here tonight. The answer to start with is no, I would not vote to go back now. The metrics don't allow that. The reality is I am a high school teacher. I am the only candidate right now facing having to go back. I spent my day today making lesson plans and working the master schedule, trying to figure out how we're going to make this work. And I am scared out of my mind. It's the first time in my life I have feared going back into the classroom. So we need to look at the science. We need to, again, I guess as Dr. Ravi says, let's listen to the medical experts and take the partisan politics out of it and make the best decision that keeps our kids and our teachers safe. So no, I wouldn't vote for it today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ragan. Ms. Shaw, I believe you're up next.
Thank you. Personally, I would not vote for the hybrid model. I would not send my child back to school. However, we have to realize that 44% of the parents that were surveyed do want the hybrid model. Of course, only 20,000 or so parents filled out that survey, but that is still a significant number. What concerns me about the hybrid model is that it forces all teachers to go back and teach in the hybrid model. And of course, only about 71% of teachers are not in favor of returning at all back to school, and they want to remain remote. But, you know, around 27% would be in favor of going back. So I think what's important to note is that this is a public school, and so we have to create options for all students and all parents who might need to send their students back. But I think that if we do choose to do the hybrid model, it should be consent-based. Only teachers who consent to going back should be going back, and teachers who do not feel comfortable should stay at home without any penalties. And of course, we have at-risk students who are already back in school and teach learning remotely. But I think what's most important is that we make sure that the conditions in the schools are going to keep those students and staff safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Miss Luna Rose, you're next.
Thanks, Hank. To answer your question, no, I would not vote for a hybrid model right now. I do not think Pima County is ready. I realize that there's other districts that have gone to the hybrid model, some of our neighboring districts, but my daughter's in 7th grade at Aliceville Middle School. And my concern is that we send our kids back into the classroom come November 12th or whatever date that they choose. And then a week later, we're sending them back to go remote learning because there's been an outbreak at their school. So I think until we see consistent numbers come from the Pima County Health Department, I don't think it's a viable option. I personally feel that if we wait another semester and wait until after winter break, then I think we'll have a better gauge of where we are in the community.
Okay, thank you very much. And Miss Winston? You are muted.
You do
There
unmute.
There we go.
There we go. I actually returned to Flowing Wells today as a substitute. And I sort of think it should be based on the 45%. I would vote yes, but only for those teachers that were willing to go and do that. I for one, I'm younger, I've got O positive blood, I'm female. You know, there's some things we know scientifically now that serve as protective factors that we didn't necessarily know before. So I feel fairly comfortable doing that, but I certainly understand when people don't feel comfortable doing that. And again, people that want to stay online and do that needs to be an option. And then people that want to do the hybrid, I would approve of that. So,
Okay.
thank you.
And one of the gracious members of the CARES board texted me to tell me that I put the cart in front of the horse here. So we're going to back up and give you all a moment to give your opening statements. And let's go in reverse alphabetical order. So Miss Winston, why don't you kick us off? And then we'll go to Miss Luna Rose and so on.
So good evening. My name is Cindy Winston and I'm running for TUSD School Board. I am the adult daughter of a bitter and tragic divorce, but I am not a bitter and tragic divorce. And so that's probably what motivated me to go into the field of teaching. The reason for that is when I was 21 years old, my mother died of suicide by gunshot wound. And the first person that I called was my US history teacher, Nancy Milligan. Without Nancy Milligan, there is no Cindy Winston science teacher of 28 years, 4 states, 6 schools, K through 12, and the last 5 of which have been online at TUSD itself. So I'm excited about the challenge of doing this. I'm extremely motivated to help kids, and that's why I'm running. Thanks.
Thank you. Miss Luna Rose, your opening statements.
Thank you, Hank. My name is Natalie Luna Rose. I am a Tucson native. I am a graduate of Rincon High School. As I said earlier, I have a daughter who attends Alice Vale Middle School, and I've got nieces and nephews all across the district. I am a founding member of the Tucson Unified Parent Advocacy Council, which we are a group of dedicated parents who are passionate about the district and advocating for better funding for our schools, of course, especially in TUSD. And I'm running because I think we need more parent voice on the board. I think we need a strong parent voice, and I believe I am that strong parent voice. And I've been very connected to my community for the last 20 years. And I think that TUSD needs direction and a steering of the boat, as it will, I'm so, excuse me. I will end with there. Thank you very much.
It's all right. These things are always a little weird getting going, and I probably screwed everyone up starting off with questions rather than letting you introduce yourself. So I apologize. Ms. Shaw, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Hank. Hello, everyone. My name is Sadie Shaw, and I'm running for the TUSD Governing Board so that I can fight to create better learning conditions in all of our schools. As a TUSD parent, artist, and art educator, I advocated to reinstate a full-time art teacher at my daughter's school. Well, any parent out there listening knows that we don't have much power as parents to improve things, and so I was not successful. As a board member, I will be your advocate. As a volunteer at Catalina High School, I've seen firsthand that there are great inequities present within the district, and I saw how these inequities made it harder for teachers to do their job. I'm the only candidate who showed up in solidarity for teachers at the standout organized by TEA this week. Actions speak louder than words, so you can bet that I will also be an advocate for teachers. This pandemic will exacerbate all of the issues that TUSD has, like a lack of transparency, low test scores, and leadership that refuses to take action in a timely manner, like we saw at the last board meeting. We need to put politics aside and take care of business. I proved that I am an effective advocate as president of the Sugar Hill Neighborhood Association while serving on the City of Tucson's Public Art Committee and as a member of the COVID community group under the leadership of Supervisor Betty Villegas, where our work was successful at lowering the number of COVID cases in South Tucson. All of this work and more has prepared me to be a one-of-a-kind future board member for TUSD. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Mr. Ragan?
Yes, thank you, Hank. I want to again thank TUSD Cares for hosting the forum, for your being here to moderate it, and to the candidates for stepping up and talking about their platforms tonight, because this is one of the most consequential races that we have. And yes, I know there's a presidency and there's a Senate race, but our school district, TUSD, is near and dear to our hearts and is a vital part of this community. And we have a unique opportunity this year to elect 3 new board members. This is the first time ever. And while we've had some success in being able to work, we have seen actually from the board now that they still need that classroom teacher perspective. So That's what I'm running to bring to the board. I am a classroom teacher. I am a high school English teacher, as well as a dual enrollment writing teacher and writing faculty at Pima College. And the perspective that I bring to the race and to the board, I hope, is that of the person currently in the classroom, advocating for his students, working as a teacher leader. I'm department chair of the English department, or co-chair. And in that capacity, I work with my administrators at my school and administrators at the district level to advocate for our students and my colleagues. At this critical moment right now with the pandemic and with what the district is facing, I think the role that I can serve is helping advocate for students and reminding the board who we're here to serve ultimately. So I'm looking forward to the questions. I'm kind of glad that we had the first question come up, because that is the most important thing to remember, that the 3 people elected in November will be tasked with, starting in January, the district's response, and it becomes ours. So I'm asking the community to think about who they want to lead that charge starting in January. So again, Adam Ragan, I'm looking forward to the questions tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pierson, let the voters know who you are. Mr. Pierson, you're muted.
My name is Nick Pierson, and I'm looking forward to the challenge of serving on the TUSD governing board. And I want to thank the CARE Forum for inviting me to participate, and also Hank for taking on the task of managing these the 6-7 candidates. Nací en Nogales, Arizona, y mis padres son de Mexico. I'm the oldest of 5 children, and growing up, we taught our mom English. I was blessed by being raised on the Tohono O'odham and the White Mountain Apache Indian reservations, where my dad was a teacher. And I've also experienced life in Mexico with my family and friends. Marilyn, my wife, and I have raised 3 children who attended the University of Arizona in traditional public schools. We have 7 grandchildren. I graduated from the University of Arizona and have worked as a financial advisor for many years. I'm an Army veteran. I've been volunteering for many nonprofit organizations in our community. I currently serve on the Fox Tucson Theater Foundation Board of Directors, and I'm co-chair of our programming and marketing committee, and spearheaded the development of our KID program, which parents partners with the school district, the teachers, and the students to broaden the students' education in the arts and culture, and to introduce them to the Fox Tucson Theater, the crown jewel of the downtown. Of course, the district has many issues that need attention. However, I'm a proven leader in the Tucson community, and the voters in the district won't be disappointed by voting for me, Nicolas Pierson, for the TUSD school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierson. And Ms. Mennella.
I unmuted myself. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Hank, and thank you, CARE, for putting this on tonight. And thank you for all the candidates who are working really hard, because this is a tough job. So good job, everybody. I'm going to take advantage of the full 90 seconds that I have. So I have a lot to say. I'm Chrstina Mennella. I am a native Tucsonan, a TUSD parent, and a product of TUSD schools. I graduated from Saguaro in 1987. I've worked as an online speech language pathologist across 3 states, Arizona, California, and Wyoming, for the last decade, in most of the in some of the most rural areas, as well as some of the worst school districts, such as Fresno, California. As a speech therapist, I'm also a medical healthcare provider with 17 years of experience in the public schools and the hospital setting. I've worked with disabilities for over 30 years. And first and foremost, I am a mental health advocate for my patients and my students. Most of my caseload in home health consists of TUSD students who are on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, with diagnoses including autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, ADD, social communication disorders, social anxiety, and depression, as they relate to communication difficulties that can occur in the speech, language, and cognitive centers of the brain. I'm running for TUSD school board because I have firsthand experience and solutions to address one of the biggest issues schools, parents, and teachers face, which is motivation for learning and behavioral issues in the learning environment, whether it's at home or it's in the classroom. It kind of happens across the board. Now that we're in COVID, it's happening. Am I done? Okay.
Could have finished off the sentence, but
okay,
I appreciate the promptness.
Okay. Can I finish real fast or?
Quickly.
Okay, as a speech therapist, we address many learning areas, and reading is one of them. So I have solutions for all these things. Thank you.
Cool. And Mr. Grivois-Shah.
Thank you, Hank. Again, My name is Ravi Grivois-Shah. I'm a father of 3 young children and proud TUSD parent who will be a TUSD parent for the next 16 years. I'm running so our school board is prepared to make sound decisions on the great number of important issues that will affect my family and the next generation of Tucson children. As a family physician on the front lines of our community's COVID response and a proud TUSD parent supporting my 3rd graders' virtual learning, I will help guide our district to make sound decisions on its COVID response. And beyond that, I'll direct our district to make sound decisions using the best evidence out there to address issues from behavioral management to class sizes to arts, music, and PE in our schools. As a business leader in our community with an LR MBA and parent member of the TUSD Audit Committee these past 2 years, I will help our district make sound financial decisions. And as a community advocate who has fought to ensure health equity and access for patients from all backgrounds, I'll help our district navigate our desegregation order and reduce disparities based on race and zip code. Together, we will ensure healthy schools for a brighter future for all Tucson families.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, now that we're legit ready to start some questions, I want to stick to the topic of coronavirus a little bit more, and a few of you hinted at this either in your responses to the first question or in your opening statements. But I'm curious, and let's start with Ms. Mennella this time. How should the district accommodate teachers that don't feel safe returning to classrooms?
I was an online speech therapist for 10 years, and I worked with online teachers, special ed teachers, principals. They were all online. There is that possibility if they don't want to be in the classroom. We've got great resources.
Okay.
As far as technology goes.
Okay, Mr. Pierson.
Absolutely. The option should be available for the teachers that feel that they're at risk. And as time goes on, I think it's something that we're going to have to live with, and it's not going to go away. And as much as possible, we have to be respectful of a person's health fears, but at the same time, we have to provide an environment that's healthy for the students, and certainly them being cooped up where they're afraid of going out of the house. They're afraid that their parents are going to die when they leave, and the children, if they play with their friends, are going to die. I mean, that atmosphere needs to be alleviated in some way. So we've got to, at least in the short run, accommodate the teachers and use the virtual environment, but eventually we've got to get back to everybody being in the classroom.
Okay. Mr. Ragan, I believe it's to you.
Great, thank you, Hank. So this is something that's very, very important to remember, that no teacher should ever be excluded from the classroom, and that we need to, if we're going to talk about recruitment and retention, we've got to make sure that we're protecting our teachers. We're giving them the benefits package they deserve. We're giving them the respect they deserve. And ultimately, when you ask teachers to come back to the classroom without a safe plan to ensure their safety, you're putting them at risk in a way that's unacceptable. There are many ways. We've already heard a couple of candidates say there's online teaching that's available. And ultimately, if the district makes that choice and that call, we can protect the teachers that have health vulnerabilities or a level of risk that they feel is acceptable, or risk tolerance, as we would call it. There are things that we can do, and I'm always going to stand by and protect my colleagues in this situation. So thank you.
Okay. And I believe Ms. Shaw, you're up next.
Thank you, Hank. Like I said in the first question, I think that we need to have options, and they need to be based on consent. And so if teachers do not feel safe going back, then we should not force them. That being said, there are teachers who do feel comfortable going back, and that we should accommodate them and the parents who want to send their students back to school. The hybrid model as it is now, I do not agree with. I think we need to go back to the drawing table and rewrite it to make sure that that consent is key in that model. However, we need to make sure that when the hybrid model does start, that students and staff are fully protected. We need to make sure that there's proper ventilation. We need to make sure that there's PPE for all students and staff if they forget or don't have any. we need to make sure that just everything is safe. I was volunteering at Catalina. They currently just stopped us from volunteering now, or kind of, yeah, stopped the art program because they started to clean out the rooms once again to get ready for the hybrid model. But when I did go this month, it did not seem completely safe to me at that moment. There was not really any, there was still not that much soap in the dispensers in the bathrooms. There was really not hardly any hand sanitizer available. I couldn't find any, at least when I walked in the door and had to open up the door with my hand instead of having it wide open, so that we would limit that point of contact. So I think we need to go back to the drawing table and make sure that consent is
Thank
key.
you, Ms. Shaw. And Ms. Luna Rose?
I think our teachers need to be respected. And so if a teacher like Mr. Ragan says to his HR department, I don't feel comfortable and I'm going to stay and teach remotely, then he should have that option. But if his colleague across the hall, Mr. Brown, says, I'm going to come back, then he should also have that option. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to have our teachers have options. But we also need to remember that our teachers are also, a lot of them are parents, a lot of them have families, they take care of people in their lives that have health issues. So there should not be any penalizing of teachers who aren't comfortable going back to the classroom yet. And at the same token, we shouldn't look down at the teachers who are ready to go back into the classroom or feel that they feel safe enough to do so. So we need to just, the overarching issue on this is safety. Safety for teachers who want to stay home, and safety for teachers who will be teaching the classroom.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Winston?
So blessed to have taught at Catalina Online Learning Experience for the last 5 years, because I essentially did a hybrid model. 3 days a week I ran a lab, and then 2 days a week I was allowed to just kind of manage my spreadsheet of 265 kids. Now I will say 265 kids is way too many. Okay, about 120 is about right to really, you know, be able to reach everybody in a timely fashion. But here's the thing. At the middle school and high school, there's already educational software that could do the bulk of the instruction, the bulk of the grading. And when I taught, that's what took it off my plate so I could do the other things, you know. So I didn't have to do the instruction. I didn't have to do the grading, except when it came to lab reports, because you can't really do that in ABC format objectively. So the challenge here for me is when I'm trying to figure out how to take things off the plate is for our elementary school teachers and our elective teachers who are just being run ragged. And I would need some assistance and some help in trying to figure that out. But I think we can be respectful of teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Grivois-Shah.
Thank you, Hank. You know, many of my patients are TUSD teachers. And over the course of the summer and the early fall, many teachers came to me asking for a note saying that they have this risk factor or their family has another risk factor that they're scared about in terms of complications of COVID, and put them in a higher risk category. Now, our teachers and educators and staff, they're scared. They need reassurance from our district that we're going to get this right. And I don't think we've heard this yet. I don't think we've gotten the reassurances that we're going to get this right. We're going to keep everyone safe. And just think of the level of exposure that we're putting our teachers to. You know, it's not like, everyone else is working and people are in, grocery stores, and I love our grocery store workers. I take my daughter to our local Sprouts every Saturday afternoon, and we know our grocery store workers by name there, and we're glad that they're there. But my daughter won't be alone with them with a skinned knee or a hurt feeling and need a hug without her parent there in those locations, like she will be in her school. And these teachers have a relationship with their children, with our children, that is unique and is not just a hands-off 6 feet away relationship. And our teachers are scared and they need reassurance, and we need to do a better job making sure they feel reassured.
Thank you so much. All right. So next question I want to ask y'all is about enrollment. TUSD has suffered what could be described as massive enrollment drops in the last decade. And with each student who leaves the district, state per pupil funding leaves too. So this is really a two-part question. What is the cause of this enrollment drop, in your opinion? And how would you stem that flow of students to neighboring districts and charters? Mr. Pierson, if I'm not mistaken, we're starting with you this time.
Thanks, Hank. Yeah, this is what revolves around the $69,000 question, as you might say. The district has been losing enrollment because it hasn't been an attractive place for parents to send their students. And we have to work in all the areas to make sure that we can make the district, all of the schools across all the sites, a more attractive place for parents to send their students. And I would start with addressing more respect for the substitute teachers. I would address the concerns of all the teachers at all the sites and try to provide adequate resources in all of the school sites, and also try to bring the parents into the equation. And there's so many factors involved that it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of cooperation from people that probably, well, that do know a lot more than myself and a lot of other board members to come up with solutions for the problems. It's going to be tough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
Great, thank you, Hank. So the first question that you asked is, why are the students leaving? And I ultimately think that we don't do a good enough job as a district showing the things that we can do best and only a public district can offer, such as dual enrollment and CTE programs that are very vital to the students' trajectory and the reason why a lot of our students love coming to school. So one of the things that I'm pledging to do is work on our pathways to make sure that from kindergarten to senior year, we're helping our students find the alignment that works for them and the course of study that will help deliver the best education that will put them where they want to be. One thing I want to point out, a couple of years ago, we had a student graduate from Santa Rita with 61 credit hours in dual enrollment work. That's not something you can get at a charter, and that started him out as a college junior the moment he graduated high school. We could be doing that on a larger scale if we actually put a focus on that. Now, the other side of this is talking with the parents and finding out from them why they're leaving. I volunteered on the Steps for Success program when we were doing that, knocking on doors, trying to get kids to come back. We need to continue asking why parents are choosing to unenroll from the district and figure out what we can do to fix those problems to bring them back. Thank you.
And Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, Hank. I talk to parents all the time who have taken their kids out of the district because they have lost confidence in the district's ability to provide an adequate education to students. This happens mostly when students are promoted into middle school. This exodus from the district can be curbed by improving the conditions of our schools and investing more in art, music, sports, and the CTE programs that charter schools lack. District schools also have the weight of generations. So I think we have a lot of things that are going well for TUSD and that can bring students back. However, I think we need to incentivize being a student at TUSD. One of my ideas for bringing students back into the district is to partner with Pima College and the University of Arizona to offer free college classes for all students who graduate from TUSD schools. That will not only motivate parents to bring their students back into the school, but it will also motivate students to do well while they're in school because they will have that idea of that, hey, I've got a free ride to the university and Pima College, and so I'm going to do well. A lot of the times,
Thank you, Ms. Shaw.
students lose motivation, and that's why they don't do well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Luna Rose.
Thanks, Hank. I feel that the loss of enrollment, a lot of it has to do with old memories. Lots of focus on negative issues that have plagued the district, whether it's right or wrong, for a long time. And the focus on the negative and looking backward has not allowed us to look forward. TUSD's got some great programs. My daughter is in the GATE program, Gifted and Talented Education. We love that program. She's doing very well. We have great partnerships with JTED, and I'd like to see that expand. Opening minds through the arts. I'm a huge fan of that because our elementary school was also an OMA school. Our gardening program is the only one in Pima County that has students grow their own food to be served in their own cafeterias. We have a lot of these type of programs, a lot of progressive movement, but we keep focused on the negative, and we keep hearing it over and over again, and it permeates into the community. And I would like to, if I'm on the board, I would like to figure out how can we turn that around. Better communication, talk to parents. I've talked to other parents who have said, oh, I'm just about to pull my kid out of TUSD, and I kind of massage them back in. And I've been able to do that by telling them this is what they do. We have schools, you know, when they were doing the ranking that have the A rankings. And well, thank you.
Sorry. I don't like to be such a stickler, but they did give me a timetable that we're trying to stick to here. And with 7 candidates, it's hard. So Miss Winston, your turn.
Hi, so I have taught middle school for 18 years in Sunnyside. Started out teaching in Sunnyside, and then I went to Pima Partnership High School, and then taught middle school again at Cole. Dr. Trujillo made a very impressive presentation 2 academic years ago and basically said folks were leaving at the middle school level. And TUSD folks love their elementary school. They love their high school and the opportunities as that offers, but the middle school always seems to be the redheaded stepchild. And that, if we get increased funds from 208, my goal as a board member would be to first focus on those middle schools and get a sense of belonging to those schools. In Georgia, I had art, I had chorus, I had theater, I had a ropes course actually at my middle school back in the 80s, okay? And we should be getting better at providing stimulating environments to students, not going behind, you know? So sometimes I feel bad that I had more of an advantage than my students do in trying to bring our schools up to that kind of level. But again, middle school is where we lose folks, and that's where the focus needs to be to get that enrollment.
Thank you, Ms. Winston. And Mr. Grivois-Shah.
You know, when I speak with parents around our district, I have the same conversations that my colleagues do. You know, it's all about the programming. You know, I've heard about parents, you know, picking, you know, this school because of its computer science program, another school because of its dance program. You know, one of the things we love most about my 3rd graders school is the OMA program that it has and the exposure she's getting to music and arts, which every student should have exposure to. You know, a year and a half ago, when she was a 2nd grader, she was in an underwater opera and she was a clamshell. And that was so cool to see her up there doing that. And being someone who's so STEM focused, to have her do that was great to have that exposure. And we can't balance our TUSC budget by cutting these programs that engage the students and families. Is these programs that help us compete best with the small charters and other districts because we can offer things that others can't. And we talk about the middle school program that my other colleagues have mentioned. We got to look outside the box and how we're going to solve that problem. Whether we take Superintendent Trujillo's approach of the 7-8 campuses, moving 6th grades to elementary schools, or whether we have single grade campuses, or go back to the drawing board and reimagine middle school campuses and curriculum. We need something different, and we need to get some innovative approaches to address the middle school problem. But I think we can find a solution that's going to work.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Mennella.
I would agree with everybody, especially about the programming in the middle schools. I know of 2 actual reasons kids have left schools, because when I became an online speech therapist a decade ago, I had to interview all the families that left public education and went to charter schools. Their kids were bullied. Across the nation, it was an issue, not just TUSD, but it was across the nation, and administrators and principals and even teachers, just they weren't educated on mental health. And so a lot of families with kids who got bullied, they left and they went to charter schools. And I ended up seeing a lot of them, especially a lot of kids with social anxiety type disorders. And a second reason I feel like we lose a lot of students is because of the disabilities, the special education services that don't happen. And public education should be the saving grace for disabilities, and it's not. We don't have special education teams like we need because we can't retain them. And we can't retain them because caseloads are over 100 for mental health, probably 200 for in some schools in Arizona, for mental health providers. But the American Speech and Hearing Association recommends 50 per speech therapist, and I always have well over 100. So I watch my people leave in droves.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. I think that was the whole list. On to the new question. So one of the toughest parts of the job is cutting. And the school district doesn't get the funding that it needs to support all of its programs. School boards have to cut. If you're faced with that decision, where will you cut from? What program, what service would you identify as your first cut, should you have to make that unfortunate choice? And I believe this one starts off with Mr. Ragan.
It's a great question to start off with for me. So having experience in the classroom, being paid through my district's budget, this is something near and dear to my heart. And I think we hear from candidates in year after year, election after election, things that are true. TUSD is top heavy in administration. We hear things about maybe money being misspent. And what I would ask for is to do this exact thing, pinpoint exactly what folks are looking to cut. And the reality with TUSD is that there isn't a whole lot of wiggle room that won't result in direct cuts that hit the classroom. So my priority first is making sure that I'm not cutting from the classroom, because the last question just showed us we are losing students over and over, year after year. There is a trend of students leaving in droves from the district, and cutting the classroom expenses is not going to bring them back. We also then need to look at administrators. To be honest, as a teacher, nothing honks me off more than seeing somebody make 3-4 times what I make, and then I still can't justify what they actually do for the education of our students or for my colleagues. So I'm going to be looking at making sure that we attach goals and metrics to everybody in administration, and making sure that we are spending our money in wise fashions. One thing that I'm not going to cut, just because I want to make sure that we're clear here, I agree with the candidates before, the arts are vital, and students need music, they need art, they need PE, and we cannot take those things away from them, especially now that we're in a COVID situation. They need those now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ragan. Ms. Shaw, where will you cut from?
Thanks, Hank. This is a difficult question, but definitely I would not cut anything related to the classrooms or teachers or students. I would start first with the grass. You look at all the TUSD school sites, we have a lot of grass and we live in a desert. If you look at the budget, we spent more on irrigating our grasses than we do on buying new library books. So that's where I would begin. And of course, we all know that TUSD is top heavy. And so I would first off advocate for not creating any more new admin positions. I think TUSD hired and created new admin positions this year after COVID, and I don't think that was very wise considering where we are at with the budget, and taking into consideration our loss of students and how that is going to affect our budget.
Sure. Oh, were you done? You've got a few seconds left if you'd like.
If I only have a few seconds, then I will yield my time.
Okay. Thank you so much. Miss Luna Rose, you're in the hot seat.
Thank you. This is a difficult question, and this is going to be something that, if Prop 208 does not pass, that is going to be a real issue. And I would not let's start where I would not cut from: classrooms, programs, arts, issues like that. Where I think we can look at is probably at the top, the administrative level. Programs that can be combined. I really don't want to cut at any sort of staffing level, but maybe no new hires in terms of admin, and also maybe some roles that can be pared down through attrition. That's where I would like to start first. I don't want to make any big cuts across the board, especially, of course, to our teachers and our support staff. A lot of our support staff do not make the big dollars, and they need their jobs, and they're the backbone of how our district runs. And they're the ones that wake up and open up the gates and turn on the lights, and we need them there for our kids.
Thank you so much. And Miss Winston.
So we just received a wonderful educational thing last night from the superintendent's office. And one of the things they discussed was the unitary status money for $64 million. And I guess, I didn't realize there were 9 components. I mean, I should have, because I took the test every year, 9 components to that. And within that 65 other different things. But my concern, not necessarily cutting, but a reallocation, how much of that has actually been spent directly in a classroom versus at some district level. And so looking even at operations, like Sadie said in the grass, like, can we look at each one of those departments and say, okay, what from there can be put back into the classroom and not necessarily spent at the district level?
Okay. Mr. Grivois-Shah?
I think this question is so tough because I would argue that we don't have the right information available to make these kinds of decisions. We have a daunting budget, $530 million, over $500 million. Now, I've been on the TUSD audit committee for over 2 years, and I've gone line by line through our budget and finances month after month with our accountants on the committee and our finance director and others. What I've learned is over the years is that our financial accounting, is great. It meets state requirements and regulatory requirements and keeps us, going strong in that sense. But I don't think it meets the needs of our district. We need financial information that is accessible, understandable, and usable by the governing board so that the governing board can make these tough decisions and by the public so you can hold the governing board accountable. We need to be able to answer detailed financial questions with just a few clicks, which we can't do easily right now. We need to have governing board members like myself who have sound financial acumen, who can ask the tough questions and really be prepared to make tough decisions once we have the best information in front of us.
All right. And Miss Mennella.
Okay. I would start with advertising because, and I agree with everybody and what they're saying. But I'm going to just move on here and start with advertising. I have a list of things I want to do in TUSD. Learning First is one of them, which addresses behaviors in the classrooms or at home, teaching tolerance for all individuals, school safety, suicide prevention, stopping vaping and addictions, expanding exceptional educational services, stopping the school to prison pipeline, retaining special education team professionals, teachers, and substitutes, competitive salaries for teachers. I'm all for that. Reading at grade level is a huge priority of mine. And then spending our taxpayer dollars in the classroom, not on advertising. Because if we're doing all those things that I just mentioned, we won't have to advertise, right? So that's how I think we'll get our enrollment numbers up, by actually addressing those issues. And I also think reevaluating okay, I'll stop.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Pierson, where would you cut from?
Well, thank you. This is a very serious problem. It's going to be the problem that the board's going to be have to face square in the face when we start the new session in January. But the current budget for the school district this year is $585 million. They've had structural deficits for many years due to a number of different reasons, but I would push that the administration give us transparent financial reports on a timely basis so that we can study those reports. Too many times in the past, the board has not had enough time to review the financial information. So this is number one. Number two, I would work on trying to make the board balance, the administration balance out there cost to at least their peer group average, and we could start there. And so, there's going to be oxes that are going to be gored that are going to make people unhappy if the current drop in enrollment is as is predicted happens. So these are very serious problems, and it's going to take a lot of work, and that's going to be the first thing we're going to have to solve, I'm afraid.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Hank, Mr. Ragan got kicked out. So he's trying to get back in.
All right, well, he's going last on this round anyway, so hopefully he jumps in just in time.
Okay.
He was first up last time, so hopefully we don't miss him. We can slow down just a little bit if we need to. All right. I'm curious, TUSD has struggled to retain teachers, especially science, engineering, math teachers. Other than increasing their pay, what can we do to ensure that teachers actually stick around? And Ms. Shaw, I believe you're up first this time.
Thank you, Hank. Well, other than pay, which I think is the most important factor for teachers, I think we should have generous benefits for teachers. Right now, the health insurance that teachers are offered is not exactly affordable, especially if you have a husband or children. You'll have to pay somewhere around $700 a month, not to mention all the out-of-pocket costs that you will have to pay. So I think that creating a generous benefit package will be huge in retaining teachers. Also, we need to make sure that teachers feel valued. At this point, I know a lot of teachers and TUSD who've had it up to here. And I think that's a big issue, as not feeling valued, as well as the pay and the benefits package that is not really significant. Thank you.
And I like that response. I want to amend my question a little bit to why are they leaving and what can we do to keep them here? And I believe Miss Luna Rose is next.
Thanks, Hank. They're leaving because this state does not pay. It's not just TUSD. This is a state of Arizona issue. This is the reason why we're seeing Prop 208 on the ballot again. We don't pay our teachers here, and they're leaving in droves. Science teachers, math teachers, they are hard to come by in the different districts that neighbor our TUSD district. It's an issue across the board. So to put the onus on TUSD actually, in terms of teacher pay, is a little bit higher than some of our other districts in the city. But that being said, I think having an attractive package is the best way to address this issue. And the best way to address this issue is through the pay scale. In addition to better working conditions, which can include a more flexible schedule, 4-day work week, 10-hour days, we need to consider the morale of staff and enact policies and programs that make the employees feel like they're truly part of the district. I hope if I'm on the board, I'll be able to be part of those discussions.
Okay, thank you, Miss Luna Rose. And Miss Winston, you're up next. Why are they leaving? And other than pay, what can we do to get them to stop leaving?
Well, certainly when I was at Cole, I always found it ironic that we did not have a smart board. And I can remember meeting our superintendent. He walked in and he said, "What can I do to make your life better?" And so we had this smart board on the wall. And I said, "You see this right here? I need it to work." Prior to COVID-19, our lab, we were basically in 10 years of a 5-year plan. Now, granted, middle school people can be monsters and tear things up, but our laptops were so old that I was like, are we even going to be able to do Arizona Merit with the things that we have? And so one reason why teachers leave, or at least me as a science teacher, man, when I was at Pima Partnership High School, I had a smart board, I had an iPad cart, and this was in financial straitened times, you know, but I had the materials that I need. I had a van to take kids places. The administration sent me to training.
Thank you, Miss Winston. When I hold my pen up, you guys got a few, take a few seconds, finish your thought, and
I
then
got a few.
we hit the 1:30, I'll interrupt you.
Instead of the district office being sent to the international training thing, Pima Partnership actually sent teachers. And I remember being at Cole and just getting a little butt chapped when I heard that the district office got to go to the international conference, but they didn't send a single teacher.
Okay, cool. Mr. Grivois-Shah.
I learned a lot about how to support teachers from my husband's experience. My husband's an educator. He spent most of his career as an elementary school teacher and was a principal in TUSD for 4 years. One thing I learned is our problems with recruitment and our problems with the HR. When he would recruit teachers, he would often sit in HR purgatory for weeks, and many of them were poached by other districts. And we can't lose teachers that want to work for TUSD because of bureaucracy, and we must first ensure that we have an efficient human resources department to get our teachers in and onboarded. And also before COVID, I was able to visit a dozen schools around TUSD, talk to teachers, and what I heard from teachers and staff is the issues of respect that many of my colleagues were talking about as well. We need to respect our teachers for the professionals that they are. And we do this by ensuring that we have professional development time that is actually useful and develops our teachers professionally. That our teachers have buy-in into their evaluation process and that is fair and transparent for everyone. And that our teachers have appropriate autonomy in their classrooms. If we can accomplish all these things, we'll succeed in recruiting and retaining the best and brightest in TUSD.
Thank you, sir. Miss Mennella?
Sorry about that. Yes, okay, so why are teachers leaving the district? Everyone mentioned really good reasons. The low pay, not having materials is a big one. I would say, just keeping, even though we're in COVID status, keeping classroom size, even though it's online, manageable. We need classroom sizes to stay manageable for teachers because if they get too big, then they leave. Another big reason teachers leave, I know, is because of the behaviors in the classroom. They have to deal with really rude kids these days. And as a speech language pathologist, according to Arizona child find law, it is my job to identify behaviors in students who need assessment and intervention. So, but that's not happening for some reason. I applied for a TUSD job 2 years ago because my daughter was having trouble learning in her classroom, and I couldn't get hired on as an SLP. I'm not sure why that's happening. So there you have it.
And Mr. Pierson.
Yes, Hank. Well, there's a lot of reasons that teachers leave. I think one of the reasons is we need to provide a healthy environment in the classroom and create a culture where the teachers want to come back. I mean, pay is one factor, but it's not the only factor because a lot of people go into teaching not because they're going to make a lot of money, but because it's something that they enjoy and they want to share with the children and the students and nurture their career. So pay is one, but it's not the only factor. I think creating a healthy environment, one that they feel respected and honored, and I think that's going to go a long way. And then plus providing proper resources for them in the classroom and having a situation where even the substitute teachers that come in feel that they are respected and that the administration also respects the teacher. So it's a circle of a family, really. The family's happy with the environment in the classroom. The teachers are happy with the environment in the classroom, and that word gets out and it attracts more students. So that's a lot of areas that we need to cover.
Thanks, sir. And Adam, Mr. Ragan, in case you didn't hear it, the question was basically we're losing math, science teachers. Why are they leaving? And what other than pay can we do to make them stop leaving?
It's a great question. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound good.
Thank you. I apologize. There is an internet outage, which this is the reality of living in the COVID 2020 world, right? So like a teacher, I got on my phone, so I apologize. It's not the best right now, but this is actually probably the best question this could happen to me on, because we want to be treated like professionals. I am a teacher. I am in the classroom. And one of the reasons that I choose to stay there is because I love what I do. I love teaching students the content area and the work that we get to work on. But what I want for my district is to feel like a professional. I think TUSD, we heard earlier about our PLCs. One of the candidates mentioned the professional development. Teachers want to learn. We need to give them the real opportunities to plan and learn and collaborate together. We also need to look at benefits and the Employee Benefits Trust Board. When every year it's stocking away more money, then it's contributing to the teachers to keep our insurance rates affordable. That's another thing that we can do. Making sure that Prop 208, when those monies come through, if that does pass, as I hope the voters will enact it this November, we need to make sure that we actually deliver that money and deliver on the promise of the voters. And when we do that, folks will want to stay at TUSD. So those are some of the things that we can do, and I hope I can keep advocating for my colleagues as a board member.
Thank you, sir. All right, that was everyone on that one. All right, we would be really remiss to not talk about TUSD's desegregation order. So TUSD is under has been under a desegregation order for more than 40 years because of its racist and discriminatory practices. So the question is, has the district done the work to merit getting out from under that order? And this is a two-parter. For those of you who think yes, how will you ensure that the district doesn't backslide without a court monitor? And for those of you who say no, what is still left to be done? And I believe we're starting with Miss Luna Rose this time.
Thanks, Hank. So last night, I also attended the district's meet and greet for the candidates, and they did a really in-depth presentation, I thought, on DSEG, time permitting, of course. And I think that the district has met their benchmarks by the special master as it is so far. So what I would like to see is once they're in compliance and the DSEG is no longer part of TUSD, that the board has the responsibility to be the oversight, and also maybe perhaps start a parent committee, a joint committee with students, teachers, and parents to make sure that those benchmarks that were met by and approved by the special master is being implemented every day in our classrooms, on our campuses, and that these group of people would come and make sure that the district is adhering to those rules and regulations that I think can help propel the district forward. Again, I've mentioned about people looking backwards, and I would love to see the district looking forward and the community look forward once the DSEG order is no longer part of the district's legacy.
Thank you very much. Miss Winston?
So I saw that presentation, and yes, I do believe in good faith that they're meeting that. Having taught science in the state for 17 years, though, I would say part of the problem of systemic racism is not having an expectation of students to do well in science. And that was certainly re-demonstrated last night when I had to ask the question when they showed the standardized test. They showed the English language test, and then they showed the math. And I said, so where's the science test? No mention, like they're more than happy to get it for me, but it's an afterthought. We're in COVID-19, people, man. It's 2020. Part of the situation that we find ourselves in is because science has not been valued. And I'm not saying it has to be the main dish, but certainly when it comes to bringing the tide up for all students, science has got to be a priority. We have a wonderful STEM coordinator in this county. Her name is Danelle Hogan. But our district does not, we haven't had a science emphasis in years. Floyd Wells uses her. Amphi uses her. You know, we have resources, and it's amazing in science here. So one of the things I would do to make sure that they don't backslide is emphasizing that all students have a right to a science education.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Grivois-Shah?
Thanks, Hank. I'm in favor of receiving full unitary status. I think the decisions that affect our district should be made by a diverse and elected governing board, and not by individuals from New Jersey and folks who are not engaged with our district. But once the federal oversight ends, the work inherent in the desegregation order needs to continue, because inequitable access to educational opportunities in TUSD, they have to end. It harms children of color. It holds back our city's ability to prosper, and it's beneath the dignity of our community. Now, I've spent my career as a family physician fighting for health equity and access for communities of all backgrounds. I'll take the same drive to my work on the TUSD governing board, fighting for educational equity and to reduce disparities inherent in our district. We can tackle disparities in a number of ways. First, and I'll keep on honing on this, understand the problem with financial accountability and transparency. Make sure that culturally relevant curriculum programs are well funded, and that we can engage students by ensuring they see themselves in our curriculum. We have enrichment through the arts and music and PE in each and every school, because the data is clear that arts and music and PE makes a big difference in academic achievement across the board. We need to address behavioral supports and discipline and fairness in that. And we have to recruit and retain a diverse workforce. We can do this, and we can keep the momentum going to have full, to address the disparities that we can throughout our district.
Thank you, sir. And Miss Mennella, you're up next.
Okay. I feel like, the huge expense of this lawsuit has hindered the district's ability to be equitable to anybody. I just feel it's cost so much. I went to Wrightstown Elementary in the 70s, and I think that's about when it started. And it's been going on a long time. I just feel that we've had nationwide shortages of teachers and professionals and special ed teams, even to the point where we can't fulfill, the IDEA Act, the Federal IDEA Act. And so I feel like I feel like we have to consider that in the desegregation case, and to consider that as we move forward. But I would agree with definitely ensuring that we have like some kind of equity task force for all children, no matter their core belief system. So I would agree that yes, I would move forward with that once it's all done and over with.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Pierson, you're up.
Right, the desegregation plan has cost over $1 billion over the last 40 years, and certainly we want to solve it to the satisfaction of the plaintiffs and the district. The desegregation order places a lot of restrictions on the district in terms of things that they have to get the permission of the court to change. But one of the things that certainly that we as board members can push for is to improve the academic achievement across all school sites, and we can do that by providing the resources necessary in those sites. And we need to focus on improving the academic achievement, because the district certainly lags behind the state average in all of the measurements for achievement, and that's probably one of the biggest holdbacks to getting the court to remove the desegregation order. So we're one of the last schools in the country to still be under a desegregation order. So I believe that if we can focus on improving the academic achievement, number one, that's something that from a policy standpoint we can do, but it's doable.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ragan.
Yes, so just making sure you can still hear me okay, correct?
Yep.
Perfect. So I think it's great, some of the things that we've heard, but we have to remember when we're talking about, say, academic achievement, that it's not just presenting the right environment as well as the right curricula for our students, but it's also looking at the whole child experience. So one of the things that I'm really in favor of is looking at our culture relevant curricula and expanding on. One thing that TUSD does really well is allowing or creating CRC programs that are core content. So that draws more students in than just creating it as an elective. And that's something that I'm looking forward to expanding on. And yet there are things that we don't do well. One of the things that I'm still frustrated on to no end is that about 15, 16 months ago now, Ms. Copeland asked for data from the district that should have been, quite frankly, at their fingertips. It should have been a matter of, we'll get a spreadsheet, we'll collate those numbers for you, send them on over to you, and you can take a look. What she was asking for was discrepancies in discipline data based on race broken down by school and gender. And that should be something the district has at its fingertips. And until we can do things like that to ensure with the community that we are actually worthy of being in unitary status and back on our own, we need to still have that oversight. It is something that I'm hoping as a board member I can get us to, because I do agree that the best decisions will always be made by the local authorities elected by the district to serve as governing board members. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Look, when the Fishers and the Mendoza families filed the lawsuit in the 70s, it was because schools with a high population of Black and Brown students didn't have facilities that were that had good working conditions. They were subpar, and they were not offering an equal education to those students. I know it's a contentious issue, and that taxpayers have put out a lot of money to the desegregation case. But I think that the most infuriating thing about this is that we have not closed the achievement gap. And that was the main issue with the Fisher and Mendozas. Just look at the Arizona merit scores for TUSD students. Across the board, it's 50% proficiency for any ethnicity, under 50% for white students. And then for Black and Brown students, it's 30% proficient. I don't know about the other candidates, but I'm not comfortable with those numbers. And because they are so low, I would say that no, we are not ready to close the case. We need a compliance officer. Like Adam said, the district is not always forthright with the data that we need to make sure that students get a fair chance at succeeding. And so I would, I'm not in favor of ending the unitary status plan, but I am in favor of making sure that the district is accountable for receiving all that money and making sure that that money goes into the classrooms so that students can do better. There's no excuse for our district having 50%, only 50% for white students, and even less for Black and Brown students, and even less for Native American students. We need to raise them up, and by doing that, we need to use that money in the classroom. 64 million can go a long way as long as it's going towards the right places.
Thank you. All right. We are running a little bit behind schedule, but not too bad. I want to move on to some lightning round questions. So let's just keep this quick, 15, 30 seconds, whatever you need to quickly answer these questions. Some of them are simple yes or no's. Feel free to expand, a sentence or two. So I guess we're starting with Miss Winston at this point. Did you attend public schools, or do you or will your children attend TUSD?
Absolutely. And I feel like a bad parent because everybody's been talking about how they're a parent. I have two beautiful sons. They graduated from Sabino High School. The oldest one just graduated from the University of Arizona and does GIS. And I feel like TUSD prepared him well for his college. My youngest son is in a senior year at University of Portland, which is a Catholic school, and he got an $86,000 scholarship, and he skipped his first year of calculus because he had a TUSD AP calculus teacher. So extremely grateful.
Cool. Mr. Grivois-Shah.
I'm a product of public education. I went to public schools my entire life. I'm a current TUSD parent, and I will be a TUSD parent for the next 16 years. So yes, I support public schools wholeheartedly.
Great. Ms. Mennella?
Yes, I went to Wrightstown Elementary in the 70s, and my parents pulled me out in 6th and 7th and 8th grade because of my daughter, or I'm sorry, my sister was in middle school and there were a lot of drugs. So they pulled me out and put me into a private school. I went to Saguaro High School and I graduated from there. And my parents both graduated from Rincon High School. And let's see. Oh, I got sidetracked. I'm sorry. Help me out here. What do we want to expand on? Just-
You and your children.
My daughter. My daughter goes to Sabino High School. Her freshman year was a little rough. She got displaced from 4 of her classes, and she has a learning disability. And they never found a teacher to replace those 4. There was not a teacher replaced in those 4 classes. They ended up keeping 1 sub, but it was a rough freshman year for her, and she still goes there because it's right up the street. So,
Mr. Pierson?
Yes, Hank, I'm a product of public schools on the Tohono O'odham and the White Mountain Apache Indian reservations, and all our children attended traditional public schools and went to the University of Arizona. I myself graduated from the University of Arizona, so that's one of the things that we need to improve, and that's why I'm running to improve public education in Tucson Unified School District.
Cool. Mr. Ragan?
Yes, I am the product of public education, pre-K to grad school. I am a huge supporter. I work in a public district. I'm always public schools. And I know when my mother watches this, yes, when I have kids, it's coming up, I promise, soon, mother, they will be enrolled into TUSD, hopefully in a STEM program. As an English teacher, I'm hoping to inspire the science and math side in my kids.
Cool. Ms. Shaw?
Thanks, Hank. Yes, I am a product of public schools. My mom went to Choya. My dad went to Tucson High. I went to school in the Amphi School District, graduating from Amphi. And going to Amphi, when I put my daughter in Monzo, which is a TUSD school, I figured that all TUSD schools had what Amphi had, which is music, art, and PE programs at all levels. And so I'm hoping that we can create those conditions in other districts in TUSD so that I and other parents don't move our students out of the district for better conditions. Thank you.
Ms. Luna Rose?
So I am a graduate of TUSD. I went to Bonias, Ellis Vale, and Rincon High School in Midtown. My mother went to Rincon. My niece goes to Rincon. We're kind of Rinconites. We support our public schools. Public schools are the great equalizer. It levels the playing field. Everybody starts from that foundation, and that's a strong foundation for the Tucson community. My daughter is a 7th grader in the GATE program at Alice Vale Middle School, and her goal is to go to UHS. To my chagrin, has been talking about ASU. So we've got a couple of years to turn that around because we are a Wildcat family. But we support public education, and I'm happy to see that all the candidates here are products of public education. And I don't think anybody concerning this group of candidates, if they did not care, they would not be here.
Okay. We started with you, right, Ms. Winston?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And I graduated from public high school as well. Yeah.
All right, I got a couple more of these. These are kind of fun. Some of these were submitted by the candidates. We allowed them to kind of pitch short, easily answerable questions. Here's one. If there was one book you would recommend to help get through the quarantine, what would it be and why? And I think we're starting with Mr. Grivois-Shah.
One book to get through the quarantine. It's whatever drives you and whatever's fun. For me, my favorite book that was fun was Devil in the White City. I grew up in Chicago and loved history that came from it. So that just was a fun book. And I think in these COVID times, whatever, gets you smiling and is enjoyable for you, read that.
All right. Miss Mennella?
Brilliant Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. This is a great Bible to have for any mental health, anxiety disorder that you might have. I teach this to my students every day. This is a great one for teens, socially curious and curiously social. We want our teens communicating, even though they're stuck at home. they're lonely and they want to talk. So this is a great book. It's by Michelle Garcia Winter, the guru of autism spectrum disorder. And I love this book. I can write it down later for people. I have free mental health resources on my website. Thank you.
Mr. Pierson.
Well, that's a good question. During the campaign period right now, I haven't had a lot of time to read books, but certainly a good book to read would be the Bible, and that gets a lot of people through the rough times. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Mr. Ragan?
So I've got two great suggestions. If you're looking for a real nonfiction book, No Ordinary Time, the story of FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt during the war years, is a really good book, great history, but also kind of inspirational in seeing some of the historical patterns that repeat. And then a favorite of mine that I teach would be Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. I know it might be a little bit real for a lot of people to read right now, but it is a book that I constantly go back to and always enjoy reading. The prequel is a great book, and actually anything Margaret Atwood will always give you a great story.
Okay. Ms. Shaw?
Right now, I am currently reading Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse by Blasco Ibanez. But if that's a little too close to home, I would recommend reading a autobiography or a biography, which is some of my favorite genres.
All right. Ms. Luna Rose?
I'll recommend two books. Beginning of COVID, I actually read Alexander Hamilton, which the play or musical was based off of. It's a pretty thick book, but it's really interesting and makes you kind of rethink how our country was founded, and taking some of those and seeing why Lin-Manuel Miranda started a musical. And the second thing that I have started to reread is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And there's a lot of parallels to what's going on right now, but what I like about it is somebody who is coming to not necessarily save the day, but he's brave, and we all need to be brave. And I think that's really reflective of what's going on in our country right now.
Ms. Winston?
So a couple of books. I was actually written up for insubordination for taking students outside, and I wish I'd had this book. It's called Last Child in the Woods, and I used it to teach my environmental biology class, but really good for surviving in these COVID times, the importance of being outside. Now, again, for on a lighter note, I really love the Outlander series. My sons would call it mom porn, but I like the character Claire, the fact that she's really into botany and she uses bad words, which I do sometimes, I'm guilty of. But yeah, those are the two things I'd recommend.
All right. All right, let's do this one, show of hands. Who here is voting for Prop 208? Okay. We really should get to closing comments, but I'm going to push it. We'll do one more. Lightning round. How much time can you devote to being a board member? And I think we're starting with Miss Mennella at this point.
Okay. I already work in the district. I work in home health, and all my families with disabilities, I treat their children, they're TUSD students, and they don't receive speech services in the schools like they should. So I supervise 3 speech language pathology assistants. I've got about 90 clients underneath me, and I'm very much in the community all the time. But yes, I have the flexibility as a supervisor to put in the time that we need for a board member to commit to the needs of the community.
I guess to make this question a little bit easier to answer, how many hours a week do you think it takes to be an effective board member?
I would say it depends on the person and what their skills are. I mean, I've got solutions at every level given my profession, so I probably wouldn't have to. I think there's going to be at least 20 hours of putting time into reading about the decisions we're going to be making. So I would say over 20 hours at least.
Mr. Pierson, how long does it take to be a good board member?
Take anywhere from 10 to 30 hours a week, I would imagine it's a commitment, especially to be prepared for the difficult financial questions that are going to come up and what areas to deal with at that time. So that's going to take a lot of study and forethought so that we are able to continue the mission of providing the best education for our students. So I think it's going to take anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week. In the past, I understand that a lot of board members come to meetings unprepared and they leave early. So that's, if we're going to have a good board, it's got to be a dedicated board.
Okay. Ragan, what's your number?
So what I'm pledging right now, reading the materials, making sure that I am available, accessible to students, teachers, staff members, and parents, as well as recognizing that this is not a job in which you are exercising day-to-day management of the district, but governance and oversight. The 10 to 20 hour range per week seems to me to be about the appropriate level, but you put in the hours that are necessary, and remember that your job is to work with the 4 other board members on the dais to set policy and governance of the district, and then to be available to community members. I will also add that part of that could end up being a lot more because I go to sporting events, I go to plays, recitals, folklorico, and mariachi. So board members should be out at the school seeing what our students and our staff are working on and doing. So, be dedicated to that as well.
Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. Well, because of COVID, I lost my job in the community teaching art. And so I am fully ready to make being a board member my full-time job. I think 20 hours minimum is what it takes to be a good board member and to act with confidence for all TUSD schools. I know a lot of the candidates here have really intense full-time jobs, so I wonder if they will have enough time to do the best job that they could. As a board member, I plan to go to each school, to volunteer in each school, to make sure that I build a relationship with each school site so that I could get the issues that they need addressed in the boardroom.
Thank you. Ms. Luna Rose?
I foresee a job. This is a job. It's an unpaid position, but it is a job. And I would do the job to the best of my ability. And so 25 hours a week, I think minimum is probably what a good board member should be doing the research, doing the homework, attending events. I already attend a lot of, well, before COVID, I was attending a lot of events on behalf of my niece and other family members, kids in the district. And I would like to, post-COVID, be able to go and meet with the principals and teachers at all 89 schools. That's would be my first goal in the first year that I would be on the board. It's a big commitment. I am a full-time employee and I am a full-time mom, but I have a family who supports me, and they believe that I can do the job, and I also believe I can do the job.
All right. Ms. Winston, how many hours do you think it'll take?
I've been told at least between 20 and 30 hours. And despite the fact that I'm a substitute for Flowing Wells, when I made the decision to do this, I knew I could not be a full-time teacher and give it the full commitment, be responsible for a roster of students and do this. So that's why I intentionally let go of my position in TUSD in July. And currently I'm looking for work that would enable me maybe to work some on the weekend, so I would have more time during the week to go do these visitations and things. And again, I've been a bad parent, not mentioning bragging on my Eagle Scout sons, but I am an empty nester. So that gives me some time and some flexibility in order to take on this responsibility.
Okay. Mr. Grivois-Shah?
I've served on state and national professional boards for the last 15 years, and I know what the role of a board is. It's not micromanaging, it's not being in the hairs of everything going on, but it's really setting policy, understanding the district, and listening. And that's what I'll do on the governing board.
Okay. And that was everybody, right? Cool. Let's move on to closing statements then. And let's go in just straight alphabetical order. Mr. Grivois-Shah, if you'll kick us off.
Great. Thank you again, Hank, and thank you for Care for TUSD for hosting this forum. Our schools are at a tipping point. The decisions that the TUSD governing board will make in the months and years ahead not only will impact over the 45,000 students and their families, but will drive TUSD's ability to support Tucson and to compete in the 21st century economy. I'm a TUSD parent with my oldest third grader and our twins who are 2.5 years old. I'll be a TUSD parent for the next 16 years and have a personal stake in ensuring that TUSD succeeds. Experience matters. And I'm asking for your vote because I'm ready to help lead our district. As a family physician, TUSD parent, and spouse of an educator, I'm ready to help our district during this COVID pandemic. As a business leader and member of the TUSD Audit Committee, I'm ready to help our district succeed financially. As a physician advocate for my patients and community, I'm ready to help our district ensure educational equity so all Tucson children have the opportunities for an outstanding public education. Please support our campaign and vote for me, Ravi Grivois-Shah, so that together we can create healthy schools for a brighter future for all TUSD and Tucson families.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Mennella.
I'm a passionate mental health advocate who has firsthand experience working with the worst of the worst behaviors when it comes to learning. I have solutions for learning and reading at all levels of age groups, grade levels, and this includes educating and bringing awareness to our educators, administrators, and parents about speech, language, and cognitive disorders of the brain. I've worked in suicide prevention with students, and I have solutions for our homeless TUSD population since Arizona's mental health system has been broken for decades. I have solutions for our parents who have been frustrated with the lack of special education services in the public schools. Special education funding follows students, so we want them in our public education. My top 3 priorities are for the students, and they are addressing behaviors so they can learn. 2, stopping hatred and teaching tolerance for all students, no matter their core belief system. And 3rd is school safety. I've worked with disabilities for over 30 years. I have lots of experience doing what I do. So you can visit my website at chrstina4tusd.com, and I'd appreciate, I'm a write-in candidate, so you have to write in my name. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to mention that. I think I forgot to say it at the top. So I
Thanks.
wanted to make sure that that was made clear before everyone goes looking for you on the ballot.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Pierson?
Yes, I'd like to thank Karen and you, Hank, for the hard work that you folks did in putting together this forum for the candidates and for the TUSD school board. My motto for many years has been La Comunidad Primero, which means the community first. There's no more part of our community than our children, and we have to enhance student achievement. We've got to close the student achievement gap. We've got to close the huge gap in technology that faces many in our district. Our students need to be prepared to compete in an ever-changing workplace that is not only local, but global as well. And as a parent, a grandparent, a businessman, and community leader, I'm very well prepared to serve on the TUSD Board of Governors, the governing board. I'll provide this balance and the strong finance background needed to help stabilize the school district and, of course, to find solutions to the history of the structural deficits in the district. I'm seeking your vote for the TUSD governing board on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ragan?
I would like to start off by saying thank you to Care for TUSD, to you, Hank, for moderating, the candidates for being here to share their ideas, and the viewers for tuning in on what we all believe is one of the most consequential races this year. And as I said at the top of the forum, we're voting for 3 brand new board members. We have a real potential here to take TUSD in a positive direction. On the campaign trail, I've been talking about this, and it's something I think about every day that I get up. A child born today is going to graduate school in the year 2038. The decisions that we make today will impact their life into the middle of the century and well into the end of the 21st century. I'm asking for the community to trust in me as one of your votes when you receive your ballot this week, if you're voting by mail or if you're voting on Election Day on November 3rd, to vote for Adam Ragan, because I am a current classroom teacher. I'm a champion for my students, my colleagues, and for you and your families. I bring a unique perspective that has been missing from the board and that no other candidate is going to be able to offer. I do have the dedication and drive to actually achieve a success and drive for this district. And I hope that the community will take a look, visit my website, adamfortusd.com, to check out information about me, see who's endorsing my candidacy, and then also really think about the 2 other votes that you're putting into, because we need to get this vote right, because TUSD is facing some big problems. And starting in January, we have to get to work on the budget. We've got to get to work on the COVID response, and we've got to start achieving some big things for tomorrow. So please, again, vote Adam Ragan when you receive your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
So I want to give a big thank you to Care for TUSD and to Hank for running this forum. Although this school year is wildly different from the one before it, we must see this as an opportunity to create a better learning experience for students. So we need to listen to students. We need to listen to parents, teachers, and employees. We need to examine the budget and see where the money is being mismanaged. And we need to make sure that the priorities of students come first. We need new leadership, people like me who aren't afraid to go against the grain and hold the district accountable for the policies that they promise. My goal as a board member is to address these inequities so that all students, no matter what zip code they were born into, will have access to an education that can be the foundation of their success. We have to have the audacity to tell the truth, to say whatever it is that's necessary, to do what needs to be done, whatever it is, no matter who it may upset. I'm ready to put it all on the line and be the fearless advocate that TUSD needs. But first, I need your support now and on Election Day. Please visit my website at shopfortusd.com to see how to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you, Hank, and thank you for Cares for TUSD for putting on this forum tonight. I think it's been very informative. And I would like to say that I am a strong parent voice that is needed on the TUSD governing board. As a product of TUSD, I fully support public education. I know we have a good district with wonderful people that care deeply about our children and our community. I am running for governing board to assist the very people who are in our schools every day, students, families, teachers, and staff, in making TUSD a great district that we can be proud of. However, TUSD remains underfunded. As a founding member with the Tucson Unified Parent Advocacy Council, we've continued to advocate for better policies, sustainable funding, and strong public schools at the state legislature. I feel very strongly that the focus should remain on the immediate restoration of funding to K-12 public education. We need public education. It is the great equalizer. My background is in communications. I have long been a community advocate, working for several public entities in the Tucson area. And I believe with my communication background, we can help propel the district forward in its perception to the community. I believe that TUSD has a perception problem, whether it's justified or not. I would like to help turn that negative perception around and try to feature the good thing that's happening within our schools, including programs such as CTE, JTED, GATE, dual language, etc. So please vote for me, Natalie Luna Rose, for a strong parent voice on the TUSD governing board. And you can go to nataliefortusd.com.
Thank you. And Ms. Winston.
In conclusion, I would just like to say that I've been abandoned, I've been disowned, I've been fired and reconstituted. In many ways, my life has demonstrated Arizona public education. And I think one advantage of me over a candidate is I'm not a politician. I have no designs to go to Phoenix or do anything else. This is what I'm passionate about. I have both Democrats and Republicans contributing to my campaign, and that I'm very proud of, but my mama didn't raise a fool, and I know good and well that the flip side of that is that there's things that I'm gonna say to conservative folks that they're gonna be like, whoa, Cindy, and then there's things I'm gonna say to liberal folks, they're like, whoa, Cindy. But I'm not afraid to have those conversations because our kids are too important. My name is Cindy Winston, and I'm running for TUSD School Board. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. It's not easy to put yourself out there like that. So one, we appreciate you taking the time to do this forum. And two, thank you for taking the time and the money and the effort that it takes to run for office. If there's nothing else, I think that concludes this. It's been a fun hour and a half, you guys.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Hank.
so much, Hank.
Good luck on the ballots.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
job, everybody.
Bye
Good job.
all.
Bye.